Hello everyone and welcome to a Keyforge unboxing video. Today I went to the Keyforge pre-release slash preview event, picked up this starter set. I'm going to go ahead and get this unboxed. I played a few games with the decks that are included in this at the preview event. So each of these starter sets is going to have two identical decks, which are like the training decks, and then it includes also two Archon decks. These are the decks that will be completely unique, and nobody will have the exact same deck. So every Archon deck, I think Archon decks go for about $10. The starter set here is about 40, and what it includes Radiant Argus, the Supreme deck. That's one of the deck that's going to be in every box. The Miss Onyx Sonorius deck, again, that's in every box. Two unique Archon decks, which are completely unique. No two decks will be the same. 6 key tokens, 28 Ember or Amber, how do you want to pronounce it? Amber tokens, 22 damage tokens, 10 power status cards, 10 stun status cards, 2 chain tracker cards and tokens, and a quick start rulebook. And again, this is by Fantasy Flight Games. Designed by Richard Garfield, the same creator as Magic the Gathering, a few other games like King of Tokyo, Bunny Kingdom, and whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and get this unboxed. So here is Fantasy Flight little product catalog. We have the Quick Start rule sheet or rule booklet. This tells you all about basically winning the game. First player to forge 3 of these keys wins. You do that by using these tokens here. So at the beginning of your turn, if you have 6 of these, you turn them in and you forge one of your keys. Looks like one of my keys is been punched. Maybe not. So each player, yeah, there's one missing, it looks like. Maybe it fell out. There it is. So each player has 3 of these, and then they'll start off on this side, and once you forge it, it'll flip over to that side. So there's our token sheet. We have our 2 Archon decks. These will be completely unique. We'll get these unboxed as well. There's no deck building in the game. Basically, you pick one of these up, your friend picks up another one, and you play the game. That's it. There's not going to be any way to like supplement other cards in, because each deck has a checklist with what cards are in that deck. There are several factions to play as, and here it looks like these are the starter decks, or training decks, what do you want to call them. And that is it for the contents of the box. So we're going to move the box out of the way. We're going to look at these decks here. And it looks like these are like the stun cards and the power cards that give some of your creatures additional power. So these are just +1 power tokens or markers. We have stun as well, so some creatures can get stunned throughout the game. Here is the chain tracker. So chaining, essentially, if you gain a chain, some decks may be stronger than others, and this is a way to kind of balance that out. So if I have between 1 and 6 chains, it means I am going to, during my draw phase at the end of my turn, you actually drop at the end of your turn, is you're going to draw 1 less card on this level, draw 2 less cards here, draw 3 less cards here, or draw 4 less cards here. Normally you draw up to 6. And then each deck is going to have, there's 2 of those chain trackers here. And this is the Miss Onyx Sonorius deck, and that goes all the way up to Onyx. And each deck is comprised of about roughly 12 cards of 3 different factions, and each faction plays slightly differently. So this Miss Onyx deck here features these 3 factions, or guilds, as they're called, I believe. Let's see if this will focus anyway. Anyway, there we go. But each deck is comprised of 3 different factions that all have different play styles. So I actually played with this deck at the preview event, and Brobnar, however it's pronounced, is like very aggressive, so they have a lot of big creatures that do a lot of damage and that kind of thing. Dis is all about kind of like you're making your opponents discard stuff, destroying creatures, that kind of thing. And the shadows particularly like to steal stuff from your opponents, so steal their crystals and things like that. So for example, this is an Urchin. This is in this deck. This is part of the Dis guild, and it has one attack, has no armor. So attack is right here with the one. Then this is if it had armor, it would be here. And it has a couple different abilities. So it has an elusive ability. It says first time this creature is attacked each turn, no damage gets dealt to it. So it's kind of like a divine shield from Hearthstone. And it also has a play effect. So it says steal one. I'm just going to call them crystals or ambers. What do you want to call them? Steal one amber. Stolen amber is taken from your opponent's pool and added to your own. So basically, when this guy gets played, he is going to steal your opponent's crystals. And you may notice in some of the decks that there are some. This card might show up in other decks that have shadows, but the configuration of the deck is going to be completely unique. So we have more shadows here. Let's get to some of the disc cards here. So this is like a demon creature this deck has. So it has 5 health, does 5 damage. Damage and health are basically the same. And damage is placed on the card, similar to Star Wars Destiny, where you put a damage marker on it to indicate that it's taken damage. So damage is more similar to Hearthstone, where the damage actually stays on the creature. And this one has an effect that says play. If your opponent has no amber, you gain 2 amber. Another card that was really interesting in this deck is Mind Barb. And Mind Barb does a couple things. So first of all, when it gets played, your opponent discards a random card from their hand. And also, cards that have these crystals here, these ambers, mean when I play this action card, I get 1 amber. And when you play creatures, this is not a creature, but let's say Urchin, they enter exhausted, they enter tapped basically. At the end of your turn, they get readied. So there is like a summoning sickness kind of aspect to that. But one other interesting, really cool thing with this game is on your turn, beginning of your turn, you're going to check to see if you have enough amber to forge a key. You then forge a key. You are then going to choose for that turn one of the guilds on your deck. So let's say I'm going to use shadows. That means I can only play cards that are in that particular guild. So I can only play cards that have this match that guild. So I might have other creatures out that are not in the Shadow Guild. It also means that I won't be able to attack with creatures from other guilds that turn. There are a couple cards that'll let you work with other factions. I think there's a card called Anger in this one. Let me see if I can find it. Yep, here it is, Anger. So this is a card from the Brobar faction, or however you pronounce it. It says it's an action. It says play. Ready and fight with a friendly creature. That creature may be from any house. So I guess, houses, sorry. But yeah, different houses are like the different groups. And this card, even though, so you would select to play the Brobar Guild, but then this card lets you fight with a creature from a different guild. So if I had played this, and I can, let's say I always had, where's that demon? Or this one here. If I had that creature on my board already, I could use Anger to play that card or to fight with that creature, even though it doesn't belong to that same house. So basically, the entire concept of the game is to be the first player to forge 3 of your keys by by either gaining crystals by playing cards, gaining crystals through an action you can do called Reap, which you tap your creature, you don't fight with it, you gain crystals. Some creatures actually have additional effects if you don't attack with them. It might say Reap, gain a crystal, or Reap, destroy a creature, something like that. Various effects. So you are playing to complete your 3 keys before your opponent. You are then also trying to manipulate their crystals, their amber, trying to manipulate how much it might cost. There are some cards that'll say on this turn or your next turn, your opponent's keys cost an additional amber to forge. So instead of having 6, they might have to have 7 or 8. I saw one card that increased it by 2. So that is the Miss Onyx Cenarius deck. And then we also have the Radiant Argus, the Supreme deck. And the clans in this deck are, let me see what it says here. We have the Logos, the Sanctum, and the Untamed. So Untamed is very much like nature, kind of if it was magic, or magic would probably be green. We have the Sanctum. These are characters and creatures that can protect other creatures, so it's very much like knights and paladins, that kind of thing. And then we have the Logos, which I believe has like effects like draw a card. So this one has an effect called Reap. So you can reap with a creature instead of fighting with it. If you reap with it, you tap it and you gain a crystal. This one also has the additional effect. If you reap with it, you also draw a card. So you can basically tap it, draw a card. And there are more control-y, I believe, than the other classes. If I were to assign a magic term to them, it kind of reminds me of like a little bit of like a is it kind of thing. So those are the two decks that you are going to get in any starter. These two decks will be the same. These are the Archon packs, and each of these will be completely different. It will have a completely different name, like the main character that the deck represents. So we're going to go ahead and open these up and see what we get out of these decks. So this deck here, we have Kal-El, Fishy Pashes. I can't speak. Some of the, obviously when you get a random name generator, you just get weird stuff sometimes. But Kal-El, Fishy Passage Archivist. You get a checklist of each deck and a code to scan it in. To basically, I guess, like maybe see the deck or do some other stuff. And it looks like this deck features the Logos, the Mars, and the Untamed. And you can obviously see their guild symbols on the back of their deck there. I'm going to go ahead and get this deck open. We're going to take a look at the cards inside of it. So here's our card. Basically, this is what you use to basically store your amber on when you're not forging keys with it. So in the Untamed, we have the Niffleape. And basically has 3 attack, no armor. It's a beast and a Niffle. I guess there are some cards that trigger off the subtypes. And it says, when it's attacking, ignore taunt and elusive. So there are like various defensive abilities that can ignore it. We have the Murmook, or Murmook, or whatever you want to pronounce that. And it says your opponent's, what to say? I can't really see. Your opponent's keys cost an additional amber. When this thing is out, if they want to forge a key, they got to pay 7 amber to do so. And then it has 3 attack, or 3 health too. We have the Snufflegator. It has Skirmish, so after you use this creature to fight, it is dealt no damage in return. So that's what, if you're fighting, if it's defending, I believe that is negated. We have a Dust Pixie. Not a particularly strong card, but when you play it, you get 2 amber, and it has 1 attack, and then no abilities. But a really nice, basically, whenever you play it, you get those 2 crystals. We have Chota Hazri is our next one. So when you play it, lose a crystal. If you do, you may forge a key at current cost. Not sure how that means. It means I can forge a key if I have the current cost would be 6. But there's also actions. So actions and artifacts as well in these decks. So here's Stampede. So they play if you use 3 or more creatures this turn, steal 2 amber, and it also gives you an amber when you play it. We have Save the Pack. So destroy each damaged creature, gain 1 chain. So this is a fairly powerful card, so you would use the chain tracker to mark that you gained a chain. I haven't had to play with chain yet, but that's how chain works. We have a Regrowth. So basically, get an amber when you play it, and you get to return a creature from your discard pile to your hand. We have Nature's Call. Bounces 3 creatures, and you get an amber. We have Life Web. steal some amber and also gain amber when you play it. We have Full Moon. We have Fog Bank. And then that is all for the Untamed faction from that deck. And now we're into the Mars faction. So this is all like aliens and stuff like that. So we have the Ixil Bolter. So when it fights or reaps, it deals 2 damage to a creature. If that creature is destroyed, purge it. So that means it gets exiled essentially. We have Ulix the Zookeeper. What this guy does. He's a scientist, so elusive. First time used creature is attacked each turn, no damage is dealt to it. And reap, put an enemy creature into your archives. If that creature leaves the archives, it is put into its owner's hand. I haven't used archives yet, but I was reading in the manual that it is essentially like a secondary draw pile that you can draw out of as well. And if it's in their archive, if you basically steal opponent's stuff out of the archives, it's a way to kind of control that they won't be able to get that creature back until it leaves their archive, or you play it and then they kill it. But next up, we have this guy, Megamouth. When he fights or reaps, it is use a friendly non-Mars creature. So this will allow him to use a creature out of the other factions in that deck. We have Tunk. I think it's called Tunk, right? Yep. And after you play another Mars creature, fully heal this guy. So this guy definitely wants you to play Mars, because if you play another creature from that same house, this one will get healed, which is pretty cool. We have a Mind Warper, another one. And this one can capture amber. So captured amber, if this creature has, like, say it's captured a couple amber total, and it dies, the amber goes back to your opponent. But it also means that it will slow your opponent down in being able to forge keys. Because if they have like 5, you take 1 away, and then you take another 1 away, they're at 4, and then they'll have to deal with that creature before they can actually forge their key. We have another Mind Warper there, and another one here. So there is some duplication in cards, but this configuration essentially on the checklist right here will be completely unique to this deck. There will be no other decks with this particular name either. We have this one next. So you get an amber, and when you ready a Mars creature or turn a non-Mars creature. Basically, it's a tap or untap something. So if I have a Mars creature that entered tapped, I can play that, and it will be basically just be readied. We have Sample Collection. Another card that deals with archives. So play it, put an enemy creature into your archives for each key your opponents have forged. If any of those creatures leave your archives, they are put into their owner's hand instead. So when you use your opponent's creatures against them, a little bit more powerful. Like the most you're going to be able to get out of this is 2. If your opponents have 2 keys forged, you get to take 2 creatures into your archive. You have the Psychic Network. So Psychic Network is an action. Play, steal 1 amber for each friendly readied Mars creature. So if I have a bunch of Mars creatures that are basically untapped, I can steal a bunch of amber. Another Psychic Network. We have these Ammonia Clouds. So Ammonia Clouds deal 3 damage to each creature. Could be a really interesting way to, if I only have 1 or 2 creatures and my opponent has a bunch, they can just like wipe their board. One thing with the game is also there are no like mana costs or card costs. You just have to choose a guild or a house, and then you can play any card from that house on your turn, as long as it matches the house that you basically choose in the beginning of your turn. And now we're into the Logos house. We have this guy here. Just the lighting. There we go. So we have this guy now. This is the Thespelion Theorist. It's a cyborg and a scientist. It has elusive, and whenever it reaps, choose a house, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is of that house, archive it and gain a resource, otherwise discard it. You can't lose to mill in this game either, so once your deck is out, you just reshuffle it and it becomes your new draw deck. You have the Titan mechanic. And so while it is on a flank, each key costs one less crystal, one less amber. So placement of your characters is kind of important. So if I place a character here and I have a character here and here, I can't place stuff in between them. They have to go on the outsides. So it's kind of positioning is kind of important. Like if I have this creature here, let's say this creature does something like the creatures to the left and right get +1 health. Whatever's to the left and right will get that bonus. Stuff that's not next to it won't get that bonus. Because there's cards that will say destroy a creature that's on the flank, destroy a creature that's not on the flank, and so on. Our next one. This is an action, archive a card from your discard pile. So basically, I can take a card out of my discard pile, put it into my archive, and then later on the turn, after you choose your house and all that, you can actually draw out of your archive. So it's a way to get, if there's a potentially dangerous card in there you want to get out, you can do that. You can say, hey, I want to bring that really big creature back next turn to my discard pile, and I can put it in my archive and then draw that card. We have Dr. Escorta. Play gain 1 amber for each key forged on your current turn. What's it say? Gain one amber for each forged key your opponent has. So if I play this, if they have 2 forged keys, I get 2 amber. We have 3 of him in the deck total. We have Doc Bookton, and has 5 health. When it reaps, it draws a card. I think we've already seen that. You have the Brain Eater. So you get after a creature is destroyed after fighting this thing, I can draw a card. We have the Mobius Scroll. This is an artifact. So this artifacts and creatures basically enter tapped, and then I can only use an artifact on my turn if I choose the faction or house that the artifact belongs to. So this one says, as an action, archive it and up to 2 cards from your hand. So if your opponents are playing a lot of discard things, this scroll might be good at getting stuff out of your hand into that archive. So if they play a discard card on you, you're less likely to discard the stuff that you actually want. You have a what's this? Positron Bolt. So you get an amber when you play it. It's an action. Play, deal 3 damage to a flank creature, deal 2 damage to its neighbor, deal 1 damage to the second creature's other neighbor as well. So basically, it's a deal 3, deal 2, deal 1. From like the left, from outer flank to inner, the like left to right or right to left, depending on which way you want to go. We have phase shift. So as an action, it says play it. You may play 1 non-logos card this turn. So if I have a really good Martian card I want to play, I can play the phase shift and play that Martian card as well. And then we have lab work. Lab work is an action, and as you play it, you get to archive the card. So again, that is the Kal-El Fishy Passage. Fishy Passage is very hard to say. Kal-El Fishy Passage. Fishy Passage Archivist. That's that Archon deck, and again, there's going to be no other decks with that name or that exact combination of cards. There may be decks that have similar guilds or the same guilds, but the cards in each one will be completely different. Then we have the second Archon deck here. So let's see who we have now. This one is N. Lennox, the Hut Jeweler. So again, here's our checklist with our QR code. And again, there's no deck building in this game. Basically, you just play the deck that's on this checklist card. And if you really didn't want to buy the core set, you really wouldn't have to. The only thing you really need to play with 2 people is just 2 of these Archon decks, which are about $10 a piece. You wouldn't have tokens or anything, but you can use anything for tokens. You can use like coins, or even Star Wars Destiny damage tokens are very similar. Um, Damage tokens in Keyforge go up to 5, though. There's 1, 3, and 5. In Destiny, you have 1s and 3s. But some third-party companies will sell Destiny tokens that go um, above 1 and 3. So here's our checklist card. And this deck uses the Mars, Sanctum, and Logos factions. Again, Sanctum is very much like armor, protection, knights, paladins, things like that. So first up, we have shoulder armor. This is actually an upgrade, so this goes onto creatures. So the shoulder armor, let's see if it wants to focus on it. So while this creature is on a flank, it gains +2 armor and +2 power. So it gains basically 2 health, 2 attack, and then also 2 defense with the armor. And you get a crystal and amber when you play it. You have protect the weak. There we go. So this creature gets +1 armor and gains taunt. The creature's neighbors cannot be attacked unless they have taunt. There's the Staunch Knight. So it's a 4, has 4 health, 2 armor. The Sanctum definitely has more creatures that have armor than the other factions. So Staunch Knight, again, 4 health, 2 armor, and it gets +2 power while it is on a flank. So if it's on like the outer sides, it would gain that bonus. There's a couple more of them. We have Commander Ramil. So he's got 3 health / attack, no armor, and when he reaps, you can use a friendly non-Sanctum creature. Basically, I can tap him and then fight with a creature that's not in the Sanctum house on that turn. A couple of him. We have Champion Anafel. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Focus wants to be elsewhere, but there we go. So 6 health, 1 armor, and taunt. We have the Roundtable artifact, so I get a crystal when I play it. And each friendly knight creature gets +1 power and gains taunt. There is a little bit of synergy with these certain types of creatures. So knights, if you have a lot of knights out, they'll gain +1 power and taunt as long as this artifact is in play. See if it wants to focus. Anyway, on to the next card. We have Terms of Redress, which is an action. You get a crystal when you play it. And play, choose a friendly creature to capture 2 amber. So you steal that amber from your opponent. It goes onto one of your creatures. Once that creature gets removed, your opponents get those amber back. But it's a nice way to kind of slow down your opponents. We have Take Hostages. So you get an amber when you play it. Play for the remainder of the turn. Each time a friendly creature fights, it captures 1 amber. So you have a lot of one particular type of creature or house, basically. If I have like 5 of the Sanctum creatures out, I can play Take Hostages, attack of all of them, and they'll all capture amber, further slowing down my opponent. Especially if each one captures 1, they're going to have to remove all those creatures eventually to get those amber back. There's another Take Hostages. We have the Blinding Light. You get an amber when you play it, and it says play, choose a house, stun each creature of that house. So if your opponent has all one creature out, or one type of creature from a certain type of house, you can basically play this, stun them all, and stun all of them. Stun, basically, I think we didn't really use stun in the pre-release, but in the book it was saying basically the only thing it can do is use its action that turn to discard the stun status. All right, we're into the Mars faction now. So we did that was Sanctum, and now we're on Mars. So this is Biomatrix Backup. It's an upgrade. This creature gains, when it gets destroyed, you may put this creature into its owner's archive. So basically, I can put this on a creature. When it dies, put it into the archive, and then potentially draw out of the archive to get that creature back faster if it's a creature I really want to play with. There is what was it called again? Biomatrix Backup. We have Zizix the Many, the creature. Anyway, so 3 health, no armor. It's a Martian soldier, and when it fights or reaps, you may reveal a creature card from your hand. If you do, archive the creature, and Zizix the Many gets 3 +1 or +1 power counters, which are these here. We just let you know that that creature has additional power. So he basically becomes goes up to 6. So has 3, and then he gets 3 counters on him. We have Yesma Think Drone. So 3 health, and when you reap, you may archive a friendly creature or artifact from play. So if I have a creature that's got a lot of damage on it, I can basically play this and then archive that creature. Essentially, it basically bounces it into a smaller draw deck that you can utilize later. Mars seems to be the faction that uses the archives the most. Mars and I think Logos use it a little bit too. Another one of that. Tunk, we saw him earlier. Tunk is 6 health. After you play another Mars creature, fully heal Tunk. We have John Smith. Kind of camera's being a little bit iffy tonight. There we go. So 2 health, no armor, has elusive, and when it fights, it reaps. It can ready a non-agent Mars creature. So I can fight with a Mars creature that's not an agent potentially, and then play John Smith, and then untap that creature and basically fight again with it. We have Billup or Bulb, however you pronounce that guy. 2 health, and when he reaps, the next Mars creature you play this turn enters ready. So basically, I can essentially tap him, play a creature, and it enters not tapped or not unexhausted, I should say. See if it'll actually seem to work when I do this. Oh well. Anyway, that's him. We have a Mother Gun. This is an artifact. It's a weapon. Action. Reveal any number of Mars cards from your hand. Deal damage to a creature equal to the number of Mars cards just revealed. So it's a good way to put damage onto a creature without actually taking damage onto your own creatures, because you basically just attack with this, or use this artifact, reveal a bunch of Mars stuff, deal a bunch of damage, and then if you're playing the Mars faction, which you would have to be playing to even use this card, you just dump them all to the board then after that. Potentially get rid of an opponent's creature, and then fill up your board with Mars creatures. We have the Incubation Chamber. This is a location. Has Omni. Reveal a Mars creature from your hand. If you do, archive it. I haven't used Omni yet, so I'm not exactly sure what that does. Let me actually check the rule manual here for Omni. Might not be in this because it's just a quick reference to that covers a few things. Creeping, fighting. Yeah, I'll have to see what Omni does. I haven't actually used Omni yet. So that's the Incubation Chamber. Again, reveal a Mars creature from your hand. If you do, archive that creature. That's the Squawker. This is an action play. Ready a Mars creature or stun a non-Mars creature. Basically, you can ready one of your creatures or stun one of your opponents. Soft Landing. The next creature or artifact you play, this turn enters ready. So basically, it enters untapped, ready to be used. We have the EMP Blast. So each Mars creature and each robot creature is stunned. Each artifact is destroyed. So good way to kind of like clear your opponent's stuff out if they have a bunch of stuff. Also, you get an amber when you play that. We are now into the Logos faction for this second deck. We have the Experimental Therapy. Should probably hold it like that. Experimental Therapy. Creature belongs to all houses. Or, let me see. This creature belongs to all houses. Play stun and exhaust this creature. So this is an upgrade. You can basically play it onto any creature, and then it will then take on the ability, basically, of any house. So if I have this on a Mars creature and I'm playing a, let's say it's a Logos round, I chose Logos, I can put this on a Mars creature, and then even though that creature technically isn't Logos, this will make it Logos, and I can actually attack with that creature. We have another Titan mechanic. We saw that guy earlier. So Titan mechanic, a couple of those guys. This is Research Smoko. Creature, so when it gets destroyed, archive the top card of your deck. And it belongs to the Logos faction. We have Ganymede Archivist. This is guys 3 health. When it reaps, it can archive cards. That's the Archivist. Got a couple of him. Doc Bookton. We saw that one earlier. We have Dexter, or Dextray. It's a human scientist. When it plays, it captures an amber, and when it gets destroyed, put Dexter on top of your deck. So it's a way to get it back. There's a card in the Shadow Guild called Bad Penny, and it says basically whenever it gets destroyed, it returns to your hand. So a similar thing, doesn't return to your hand though, it returns to the top of your deck. You have Library of Babel. It's a location, it is an action, you can draw a card with it. You have Wild Wormhole. The Wild Wormhole, play the top card of your deck. And it's an action, so if I play Wild Wormhole, basically I just flip the top card of my deck over. I can play it even if, I imagine, even if it isn't of the same house. We then have Interdimensional Graft. So if an opponent brought a key or forged a key on their, if the opponent forges a key on their next turn, they must give you their remaining amber. So if they have 8 amber, they forge a key, you gain 2 of it. And then we have, again, another Wild Wormhole. So those are 2 different decks. Again, we have, this is N. Lennox, the Hut Jeweler, and probably gonna mispronounce it again, but was it the Fish something or other? Kal-El, Fishy Passage Archivist. So again, these are the 2 included Archon decks, and again, each Archon deck is going to be completely unique. There was some statistics where it's like some quadrillion combinations of if you have, you know, every card in the game, every faction, there's like some insane number of potential decks that could be created for Keyforge. So again, that is the unboxing for Keyforge. Each starter set will include these 2 decks. These ones will be the same. These are going to be the only 2 decks in the game that will be the same. Each starter deck will have these 2. You get your power counters and your stun counter cards. You get the 2 unique Archon decks. Little quick reference rules guide. You get all of the necessary tokens, which are again right here. We have our keys, our amber. These are chain counters here. Damage counters, as well as this little Fantasy Flight likes to always include these product catalogs. But that is it for Keyforge. So far, I'm really enjoying the mechanics of the game. I like the fact that each deck you play or each time you play will be probably a different experience because no two decks will be the same, aside from, of course, the ones in the starter set. Every Archon deck will be unique, and it's just I like that each house has its own kind of like distinct play style behind it. So I'm gonna probably buy a couple more Archon decks and just play. It's not a collectible game really because there is no deck building, or you're not gunning to try to get like one particular card or anything like that. I can imagine Fantasy Flight in the future probably doing more cards for the different houses, as well as maybe even adding new houses to the game that will have different mechanics. But other than that, that's it for Keyforge. So far, really enjoyed the game. That's going to do it for this video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.